afternoon, it's Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant afternoon, and I hope you're all doing well. And this afternoon what I'd like to discuss a little bit about is central bank digital currencies and what we can do about them. Now I'm going to give a shout out to a channel called Clyde Do Something, and it was watching his video that I found out about this because I hadn't heard a thing. This is the public consultation period for a Canadian digital dollar. Okay, and the date closes on June the 19th, so there's quite a short window of time for you to have your say in all of this. And anyway, Clyde Do Something is a great channel, and I've got some fantastic information and links from that channel, so I would highly suggest that you go and check him out. So I would also highly recommend that you do the public consultation. It's online, it's pretty straightforward. The questions are very leading, of course, and I left extra comments in the spaces below as to why I do not want a central bank digital currency. And bearing in mind that the House of Lords in Britain have also had several meetings about a British pound, digital pound, and they described it as a solution looking for a problem. And I'm just going to read you here just the top first couple of paragraphs of the public consultation website, and it's kind of interesting what it says. So this is the preamble for the public consultation on Canadian central bank digital currency. You may have heard that the Bank of Canada is working on something called a central bank digital currency, CBDC, or a digital Canadian dollar. It doesn't exist yet, but we're getting ready in case one day Parliament and the Government of Canada ask us to issue one. Yeah, it doesn't exist yet. A digital Canadian dollar will be similar to Canadian banknotes, but in digital form. It will be backed by the Bank of Canada with the added benefit that it will also be used online. And of course, because it'll be used online, anything that you say online that the government doesn't like, guess what? Your digital dollar will suddenly evaporate and you will be left penniless. A digital dollar wouldn't replace cash. We will continue to supply banknotes as long as Canadians want them. It would simply be another way to pay. We don't see a need for a digital Canadian dollar right now. However, people tend to use cash less often these days. Most payments are already digital, such as using debit or credit cards. If this trend continues, there may come a time when cash is not widely accepted in day-to-day transactions. That might be the tipping point when a digital dollar could be needed. Tell us what you think about a digital Canadian dollar and which features might be important to you. So this is your opportunity to tell them what you think, and tell them that this is a solution looking for a problem that doesn't exist right now. Okay, the problem that they're trying to solve does not exist right now. So they are planning to do this as a parallel currency, that it is not going to replace cash, but it will be there just in case the government calls upon it to have a digital currency. Well, why would you go to all of that time? So this is already pretty well planned out. But please don't give up heart. Now I'm just going to play another little video, okay? And this had a lot of impact on me. And well, it explains itself. Here we go.
Let me give you a little commentary on the Holocaust. The Holocaust is generally deemed to be the worst travesty in human history. 5 or 6 million Jews. I don't know what the actual count was, but it was a lot of people. They did a genocide. They tried to wipe out an entire race. Hitler did not take Germany by force. He did not drive in with army tanks. Hitler was elected. Anybody have any idea what the vote count was? What his percentage of the total was? 98% in Austria-Hungary. That's just about everybody. Everybody voted for Hitler because he was going to solve all their economic problems. Did Hitler get elected on Monday and start throwing people into ovens on Friday? No. It was a gradual process. The first thing that Hitler did was start to write newspaper articles. Everything that was going wrong was the Jews' fault. They're the ones that caused all these problems. Did the Jews write their own newspaper articles and go, I disagree? Well, not that I can think of. I've never read any newspaper articles that, contradicted any of that. So then the Jews had to wear the Star of David so we can tell who you are. Did they say, no, that's a violation of my privacy. I don't have to tell you whether, I'm Jewish or not. No, the Jews decided, well, it's a religious symbol. We love God. We should be proud to wear the Star of David. Eventually, the Germans came in and they broke all of the windows in all of the Jewish businesses in one weekend. Saturday night was known as Kristallnacht, which is German for Night of Glass. You couldn't walk up and down the sidewalks because they were filled with glass. Did the Jews rise up and say, now, damn it, you're violating my property, you shouldn't do that? No. Gosh, we don't want to make the Germans any madder than they already are. We want to just kind of go along to get along. Don't piss them off. They've got guns. Eventually, the Germans are loading them up into cattle trailers on the train. Where do you think you're going? On vacation? Where do you think they're going to take you? Well, now you're cold and naked and they're walking you into the ovens where you're going to go to mass execution. Is it time now to raise your hand and say, I tend to disagree with all of this? Bang! You're dead. It's too late to complain. You should have complained at the beginning when you at least had a chance. My question to you, and I don't expect you to answer it, just think about it in your head. How bad do things have to get before you do something? Do they have to take away all your property? Do they have to license every activity that you want to engage in? Do they have to be throwing you on cattle cars before you start to say, now wait a minute, I don't think this is a good idea? How long is it going to be before you finally resist and say, no, I will not comply? Period. That's a different answer for each person. Ask yourself now, because sooner or later you're going to come to that line, and when they cross it, what are you going to say? Well, okay, cross this line. Okay, now cross that line. Okay, now cross this line. And pretty soon you're in a corner. Sooner or later, you've got to draw a line and stand your ground, whether anybody else does or not. That is what liberty is all about. If you think I am radical, let me share with you some thoughts from some of the founding fathers. Thomas Jefferson said, and this country with its institutions belong to the people who... Thomas Jefferson. And what country can preserve its liberties if its rulers are not warned from time to time that this people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms. The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Right? We're talking bloodshed if necessary. Abraham Lincoln. This country, with its institutions, belongs to the people who inhabit it. Whenever they shall grow weary of their existing government, they can exercise their constitutional right of amending it, or their constitutional right to dismember or overthrow it. He also said, we the people are the rightful masters of Congress and the courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who pervert the Constitution. How do you know if the Constitution has been perverted if you haven't read it?
So there you go, that is your cautionary tale, and where will you draw your line in the sand? And CBDCs for me is one of my many lines in the sand. So what can we do about this? Well, I am reminded of a story which has kind of got lost in history now, but this is Gandhi in India. Gandhi, the British had instituted a salt tax which affected just about everybody, and Gandhi convinced everybody to sit down, fold their arms, and just not play the game. They were non-compliant, and people don't seem, well, because we've forgotten this, we've lost the enormity of what happened there. Gandhi turned back the entire British Raj. Now, the British army, when they were doing their Commonwealth thing, they ran through countries like a steamroller. Okay, they seemed unstoppable in Africa, across other continents, and yet in India, they were repelled simply by peacefully sitting down and not complying with what they wanted. They started making their own clothes, so they stopped purchasing the things that the British wanted to sell them. Unbelievably powerful. And so this is what I'm suggesting to everyone who's listening to this video, to don't comply. It is so clear that the government is no longer operating in the best interests of its people. Okay, and when that happens, the social contract has been broken, and you do not have to comply with what they are insisting upon. No mandates, no nothing. It doesn't matter. And we can do this. And if every single person who watches this video you don't have to try and convince the world. Convince 2 people. Double your number. Convince 2 people in such a way that they will go on and convince 2 people that that's the correct course of action. And you know how that multiplier effect works. I don't know if you remember the old commercial for VO5. You know, if I tell 2 friends and they tell 2 friends, and you see all the different people multiplying on the screen, it doesn't take very long. You know, by the time you get to the 7th or 8th layer, you basically talk to the entire population of Canada, 30 million people. This is unbelievably powerful. It even says the same thing in the preamble to the public consultation for the digital currency. We will continue to supply cash or dollar bills as long as people want them. Why do you think they're trying to censor people? Why do you think all of these bills are coming out to try and stop people from talking? Because they are scared to death that we will get together and start a whole movement of non-compliance. This is not violent. It is so simple, and really there is very little or no repercussions to if we all do this. So again, I would urge you to think about Gandhi, what Gandhi achieved. Think about that earlier video about what happened to the victims of the Second World War, and that they should have spoken up when they had the opportunity. And believe it or not, as corrupt as our institutions are, they are still in place. And enough people put pressure on them just by resisting, they will be forced back into line. And to be quite honest with you, my friends, you've got nothing to lose. And if this goes forward, if enough of us don't fill out this questionnaire and tell them what is on your mind, you will regret so much, because you will be in, well, it'll be like a roach motel. You can get in, but you can't get out. And just one little thing I'd like to add here is that if anyone is concerned about consequences, it's already too late. If they want you, they're going to plant something, they will find something. It's already too late to worry about that. We're way beyond that stage. So bear that in mind if you have any fears. And I'm also suggesting that, you know, we not go through life living in fear of consequences, because there are times when you simply have to do something. I don't think any of us want to be there, and I think that we can all see now that the world is heading in a direction which is not going to do any of us any good. So, and what are you going to do in the meantime? post articles on Facebook that you haven't even read yet. No. This is something that you can actively do to show your displeasure. Just don't comply. So, I hope that brings you some hope and some food for thought, and that we can all get on board. Like I say, just try and convince 2 people to convince 2 people each, and you will be amazed at how those numbers will add up. And quite frankly, at this point, we have got nothing to lose by that and everything to gain. So all of this stuff, there will be links below, links to Clyde Do Something, and also to the public consultation for Bank of Canada digital currency. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like, comment, subscribe below, and in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant afternoon, and we'll talk very, very shortly. See you now. Bye.